Hi, I'm Kathy Morris. What you're about to see is a series of unique women who are graduates of Northeastern University School of Law. They're women who work far and wide, but more than that, who've gone the extra distance in a diverse variety of roles to be pioneers in their field, to be innovators, to break ground. They've stepped up. They've gone the distance to set the pace for change. And in that way, they've been influential, but not only influential, we say they've been transformative trailblazers. We wanted to bring them alive for you. We hope you'll enjoy their wisdom and advice, and we invite you to meet them now.
I was the only woman or the first woman throughout my career. What motivated me was to try to figure out how to make it easier for the women that were coming behind me. But the only way I could ever figure out how to do that was to be smarter than the guys and work a little harder.
When I left law school, I moved to Alaska, so I suppose that's a trail in itself. I was the first woman to serve as the Chief Public Defender for the state of Alaska. I was the first woman appointed to the Alaska Supreme Court, and actually the first woman to serve as Chief Justice of that court, so I suppose that's a trail too.
The trail that I definitely most blazed in my career is moving to an international country and trying to establish myself as a lawyer and as a woman and as someone trying to get development done.
I do feel like a trailblazer because, I've taken some different turns, but I have to say my mother said, life is long, you have time for several careers. Just start with something and just see where it leads you. And I'm not afraid to do that. And when we came to the point of the film where it looked like, this thing's not going to happen. No matter how well written it is, it's just not going to happen. There's just not the money for it. I just remembered her saying, there's 100 ways to skin a cat.
So my career has been focused on trying to make sure that the law, and the law as applied to gay people and transgender people, is the same law. And that's what I do. And I think the trait that allows me to do it is be determined and believe that that constitutional commitment and that promise really means something. And I do, and it does.
The trait that allowed me to make that breakthrough is definitely being extremely headstrong. I'm very overly analytical, which is really helpful in this career, but sometimes less helpful in personal affairs. But I analyze every single situation with every single detail, and I'm very cognizant of what kind of person I'm dealing with.
First of all, learning the law, and then going out on co-ops and having to land on my feet and learn a new situation really quickly that I was only going to be in for a short time was an essential skill to then being able to turn around and do that, which is exactly what you do in film. I mean, movies take about 3 months, the length of a co-op, and you're going to a new place and you're meeting all new people and you're figuring out the world, that world, whatever it is.
Northeastern, in my class, entering in 1973, we had, I think, 50.5% women. I think there might have been one more woman than a man in my first year class, and that supportive network of women again was something that was great in giving, I think, all of us the sense that we could achieve what we wanted.
So I decided when I was 7 that I was going to go to law school, and I had other slight career changes as a kid, just to make it sound more normal, like I want to be a psychologist, but I always really wanted to be a lawyer. And so I went to law school thinking at some point in my career I have to go to Haiti just to give back to somebody, just because this is a reason why I went to law school.
And I was really, really happy to be here because I had a really amazing experience of learning about the world, learning about social justice, having Carl Clare for torts. That just pretty much says it all.
It's an incredible student body. I mean, people come from all walks of life and bring those perspectives, and that makes the environment here so rich and inspiring to see what other people are doing in their lives and how they're using the law to do good and make a difference.
I think my first co-op probably was the thing that did it, because many of my friends were staying in Boston, but I went to Montana, so it's the West, and of course that's where I am now, but it was also my first time packing up my car and just taking off and moving someplace. So I think really that is the thing that set in motion the idea that I would pioneer up to the Northwest.
Especially for women, I think those co-op programs really, they require that you show up. You can't hide behind a book. You got to show up. In film, it's the same way. To get my film Frozen River made, I received zero help from the film industry. In fact, was rejected over and over and over and over again until I finally figured out with my husband that we would make the film together ourselves. You know, that was just being strong-willed and saying, I'm going to go forward. I'm going to get my voice out there. Why I can do that is because when I was sitting in, Judge Skinner's office and I was too afraid to write, and I was like, oh, I don't know. He would have us draft stuff, and it was an inmate case. And he, I'd been kind of hemming and hawing and like, not sure, will it be good enough? And I just remember he walked in and he said, are you ever going to get that done? And I was like, no blood in my face at all. And I thought, oh my God, am I? And I did. I just got busy. I stopped worrying and overthinking it. I just started doing it. And that, I think, is one place where women really need to push through, is no, don't overthink it. Don't talk about it too much. At some point, just do it. Just do it and get your voice out there. And you know what? Maybe you're wrong. So what? Do it and do it again. That's what I say.
I certainly heard time and again about the importance of strategic thinking. It's not enough to be right. I wish it was enough to have the Constitution on your side, but you have to think about how to make your case not only in court, but in the court of public opinion. Another thing about Northeastern is it taught me the profound importance and solemn responsibility of being a lawyer, that it's an incredibly important tool, and that it can be used well and wisely, or it can be squandered. And I have always obviously tried to use it well, and to do it on behalf of real people. Because again, at the heart of all of this is not only principles, but principles as applied in the lives of real people who simply seek the same rights, opportunities, freedoms, and responsibilities that all other Americans enjoy.
Women are judged by what they look like, how they dress, and how they present themselves, much more so than men are. And I think that's changing a little bit. You don't have to worry about being beautiful all the time or dressing perfectly all the time. You can be who you are. You can be smart. Now, finally, more and more of us being judged as who we are as individuals, not who we are as representing an entire gender.
I think women coming out of law school assume that they can achieve their dreams. Northeastern, I think, because we had 50% women, gave us that message. My girls' school gave us that message. But I think now that women all over the country are coming out of classes that are 50% women, they feel more empowered and they're more confident.
The most significant change I've observed is that there are a lot of women that go out and do something on their own. I think when I came into law school, it was the idea that you would follow this beaten path of you go to law school, then you go and you work in a law firm or in the public sector or whatever, but you work in there for pretty much the rest of your duration of your career. But what I am finding is that there are a lot of women graduates that I graduated with even before before me, because of the economy or because of other things, have started their own firms, and I think it's fantastic.
There are more women in more fields in law. You can't find a field where women are not represented, and often well represented. And respect. There's not the same kind of automatic discounting that I think many of us faced 20 years ago, let alone 30, 40 years ago, as women lawyers. We're now lawyers, and I tell you, one of the things I enjoy the most, perversely perhaps, is when a man says to me, boy, I don't want to be against you in court, because I think, wow, we've really come a long way.
Knowing what I know now, I don't think there's anything that I would do differently professionally. I don't have any real regrets. But what I do think about often is that I can now have enough reflection back to realize when I've handled something poorly, and that makes it a lot easier going forward.
Yes, there is one thing I would do different professionally. I would take more professional vacations. I would take the vacation time that I have because I think there's always more work. There's always more work. And frankly, of course, it's important to develop an expertise. It's part of what's going to give women confidence to feel like they can go toe-to-toe with anybody in any meeting, do the things that you love, treasure your friendships, your relationships, your children, and remember that it's a marathon, not a sprint.
Not a thing. I really have loved every step of my career, and there's not anything that I can think of that I would change.
I think coming here was great. It was great. I've not regretted it for one moment because I got so much confidence, and I still fall back on what I know about the way the world works, and that's what you learn here. And I had to pursue my bliss, which was film. So, you know, a funny road, maybe to others, not such a funny road to me.
One piece of advice I definitely could give is to be less concerned about having a career trajectory that makes sense or is traditional, and be more concerned about making a decision that makes sense for you in that moment without thinking about what is it going to look like in 10 or 15 years if I do this, and this isn't my law degree to prepare me for this. Just to make decisions that are in relationship to your career that make sense for you at that moment.
My advice is do what you love. Do it with an idea that you're going to do service to others, and don't worry too much about how it's going to turn out. I think I've heard it described as a connect-a-dot picture, and as you're making the dots, you don't know what the picture is going to be, and then at the end of the path you can look back and you connect the dots and you think, oh, it makes total sense. This is exactly what led me here.
I think it's important, no matter what, to try to find something that you love in the law and do it, whether it's your paid work or your volunteer work. And the other piece of advice I have is don't let go of yourself. You know, if you want to kayak, if you want to have kids, you know, if whatever it is, do the things that matter to you as a person.
Be ambitious, be smart, be driven, work incredibly hard. The most important thing, I guess, is understanding what you're good at and understanding what you're not so good at and what you need to get better at. You can't expect the system to help you. You have to work the system. You still have to understand how to play the game. You have to understand power. You have to understand relationships. You have to understand how to market yourself. You have to understand how to be what the employer needs. It's fun to have other women. It's wonderful to help other women.